The taste of copper flooded my mouth as I spat blood onto the cold linoleum of the gynecologist's waiting room. My stepbrother Will stood over me, fist still clenched, his voice a thunderclap in the sudden, horrified silence. Other patients scrambled back, chairs scraping against the floor. "Choose how you pay, or get out," he screamed, shoving legal papers in my face. "Sign these now, or you'll never set foot in Dad's house again." The fresh stitches from my emergency surgery, just 3 days old, screamed in protest as I tried to push myself up. A nurse was already on the phone with 911, her hands shaking as badly as mine. Will didn't care. He never had. "I'm Donna Underwood, and I'm 32 years old. 2 weeks ago, I had a future, a baby on the way, a father who loved me, a home. Now, I was bleeding on a medical office floor while my stepbrother tried to steal the last shreds of my life. It started 3 days after Dad's funeral. I'd just lost the baby, a miscarriage at 14 weeks that ended in an emergency DC when the hemorrhaging wouldn't stop. The doctors said I was lucky to be alive. Funny how people throw that word around. Lucky. I was staying at Dad's house, trying to heal body and soul, when Will and my stepmother Veronica showed up with a moving truck. They didn't knock. Will just used his key and walked in like he owned the place, Veronica trailing behind him, her face a mask of cheap sympathy. "Oh, Donna, sweetheart," she cooed. "We heard about the baby. Such a tragedy." But her eyes were already cataloging Dad's antiques, calculating their resale value. Will got straight to business, slapping a stack of papers on the kitchen counter, the very counter where Dad used to make his famous Sunday pancakes. "Sign these. Dad left everything to Mom and me. You get $10,000 if you sign today. Tomorrow, it drops to 5. I almost laughed. My father, who raised me alone after my mother died, who built Underwood Construction from nothing into a multi-million-dollar company, would never leave me out of his will. That's ridiculous. I want to see Dad's real will." That's when things got ugly. Will's face turned that particular shade of purple I remembered from childhood, the color that meant someone was about to get hurt. "This is the real will," he snarled. "Dad signed it 2 weeks before he died. You were too busy with your pregnancy drama to notice he'd written you off." Pregnancy drama. That's what he called losing my first child. I tried to stay calm, told him I needed time, needed a lawyer. Will gave me 24 hours, but when I showed up for my follow-up appointment, he was there in the waiting room. How he knew, I didn't realize then. I'd later learn Veronica had been going through my phone while I slept. "Time's up," he announced to the entire room. "Sign now, or get out of the house today." I said no. That's when he hit me. The slap sent me crashing to the floor, my ribs screaming, my mouth filling with blood. He sneered down at me. "You think you're too good for $10,000? Fine, now you get nothing." The police arrived within minutes. Will tried his usual charm. He was just grieving. His stepsister was being unreasonable, but it's hard to explain away a woman bleeding on the floor with a handprint blooming across her face. They arrested him, but Veronica bailed him out within 2 hours. By the time I got back to Dad's house with my friend Margie, the locks had been changed. My belongings were scattered across the front lawn, soaked by the neighbors' sprinklers. But what broke me was seeing my mother's jewelry box, Dad's 10th anniversary gift to her, smashed open on the driveway, her pearls scattered like tears across the concrete. Margie, a sharp 73-year-old retired forensic accountant and Dad's friend for 20 years, helped me salvage what I could. "This isn't right, honey. Your daddy would never do this." She was right. Dad had been clear about his will. Everything split equally between me and the company's pension fund. Will and Veronica were to get the Florida house and a reasonable sum. Fair's fair. That night, Mrs. Patterson from next door finally approached us. "Donna, your father was so upset the week before he passed. He came to borrow my phone. Said he didn't trust his own anymore. Said someone was listening." Sleeping on Margie's couch with an ice pack on my face, I replayed Dad's final weeks. The paranoia, the secrecy. I'd blamed the heart medication, but what if it was something else? At 3 a.m., the sound of breaking glass shattered the silence. Someone was trying to get into Margie's house. By the time police arrived, they were gone, but they'd left a message spray painted on her garage door: "Stop digging, or next time we come in." Will showed up the next morning. All fake concern. "Heard you had some trouble. Neighborhood's getting dangerous. Maybe you should think about moving somewhere safer, like another state. Margie ran him off. But the threat was clear. After he left, she pulled out her laptop. I still have access codes for your daddy's company. Let's see what Will's been up to. What we found made my blood run cold. For 5 years, Will had been bleeding the company dry with false invoices and ghost employees. He'd stolen nearly $500,000. Margie also noticed the withdrawals had gotten bigger about 6 months ago, right when Dad's heart problems worsened. His medication had been changed 3 times, each time making him worse instead of better. Margie had a chilling theory. What if someone was tampering with his medication? I remembered Dad's last coherent words to me in the hospital. Check the basement safe. Donna. Behind the water heater. Your mother's birthday. At 2 a.m. Margie and I crept across the backyard like cat burglars. I can't believe I'm breaking and entering at my age, she whispered. The basement smelled of Dad, Old Spice and wood shavings. Behind the water heater, hidden behind a false panel, was a safe. Mom's birthday opened it. Inside were 3 things that changed everything. Dad's real, notarized will, a thick folder documenting Will's embezzlement, and a letter in Dad's shaky handwriting. My dear Donna, it read, if you're reading this, my suspicions were correct. I've been feeling worse since Will started helping with my medications. He monitors my calls. I hired an outside audit firm. Trust Margie. Don't let them win. I love you, Dad. Will had been poisoning him. And Veronica. Another folder held yellowed newspaper clippings. Her first husband died of heart problems. Second, kidney failure. Third, a stroke. All within 3 years of marriage. All left her everything. My father was husband number 4. We photographed everything. A quick, risky look at Will's still logged-in computer upstairs revealed his emails. Messages to Veronica. Old man took his pills like clockwork. Double dose in his coffee this morning. And the worst. From 3 weeks ago, if we can't get Donna to sign, we'll need to handle her like we discussed. Handle me like they handled Dad. The next morning, we took everything to Gary Garrison, Dad's lawyer for 30 years. He immediately got us in touch with Detective Riley, a woman who took cases like this personally. Her mother had been slowly poisoned by a caregiver. The pills we'd managed to salvage from Dad's house tested positive for 3 times the prescribed amount of digoxin. We had evidence, but we needed a confession. I remembered Will's fatal flaw, his ego. He always had to brag, to feel like the smartest man in the room. If I played broken, he might get careless. I called him, crying on cue. Will, you win. I'll sign. I just want Mom's jewelry box back. He took the bait. We arranged a meeting at Dad's company office, with witnesses. Gary got a warrant for recording devices. The next morning, I played my final card. Will, Dad mentioned another account before he died. Something about Mom's life insurance. Maybe a safety deposit box at First National. Maybe $100,000? I could hear the dollar signs in his eyes. He believed me because he wanted to. Greed is funny that way. It makes smart people stupid and stupid people dangerous. That afternoon, Will tore the house apart looking for the information. He grabbed my arm hard enough to leave bruises. Where is it? I told you. I don't know exactly. Dad was on a lot of medication. He just kept talking about First National and Mom's birthday. Meanwhile, the recording devices we'd planted were picking up everything. Will and Veronica discussing the digoxin dosage, their plans to sell the company, and their contingency for dealing with me. We had him. The meeting was set. We were walking into his trap, but we were bringing the law with us. We've got enough, Riley told me that night, her voice calm but her eyes blazing. But I want them all. There's someone else, inside the hospital, who's been supplying the digoxin. If we move too soon, they scatter. Gary had news of his own. That notary on the fake will? He died in a car accident 2 weeks ago. Convenient, right? Except I found his secretary. He was in Miami that entire week. Couldn't have notarized anything in Pennsylvania. The net was tightening. Tomorrow's meeting at Dad's office would be the trap. I'd wear a wire. Undercover officers would be stationed nearby. All I had to do was get Will talking. Margie squeezed my hand. You sure you're up for this, honey? You've been through enough. I thought of Dad, dying slowly while his stepson measured out his poison. I thought of my baby, lost in the chaos they'd created. I thought of Veronica's 3 previous husbands, buried and forgotten. I'm ready, I said. They wanted me to choose how I pay. Tomorrow, they learn the real price. The morning of the meeting, I threw up twice. Margie held my hair back. You're your father's daughter. He built that company from nothing. Will just has stolen money and a bad dye job. She wasn't wrong about the dye job. Under the fluorescent lights of Dad's office, Will's hair looked aggressively orange. He sat in Dad's chair, feet on the desk, playing king. Tiffany was taking selfies in front of Dad's awards wall, duck-facing at the camera like she was at a nightclub. Let's get this over with. Will pushed papers across the desk. Sign here, here, and here. You get your money and you disappear. His notary was there, a sweating, greasy man named Vincent. I recognized him from Riley's surveillance photos, 3-time convicted forger, out on parole. Before I sign, I said, my voice steady, I need to understand exactly what I'm giving up. Dad always said to read everything. Will rolled his eyes. You give up all claims to the estate. You get $20,000. We never see each other again. And the employees? Dad had profit-sharing agreements. Not my problem. He laughed. Companies being sold tomorrow. Fitzgerald Industries offered $3 million. Could have gotten $10 if we waited. But I want this done. Admission 1. The wire caught every word. Veronica swept in with a bottle of champagne. For after. She smiled. Her eyes landed on me. Fake sympathy dripping. How are you healing, dear? That miscarriage must have been so traumatic. Stress can cause those things. You know. Maybe if you hadn't fought so hard about the will. I wanted to throw something. Instead, I asked, how long have you and Will been planning this? She laughed, that tinkling sound that had charmed my father. Planning what, dear? We're just following your father's wishes. Really? I pulled out my phone, because I found some interesting emails, something about handling the old man, dating back to last year. Will's face purpled. You hacked my email? That's illegal. You left your computer logged in when you threw me out. That's just stupid. Tiffany blinked. Willie Bear. What's she talking about? Nothing, baby. Just sign the papers. Donna. I picked up the pen, paused. One more thing. How did Dad really die? Heart failure, Veronica said quickly. Heart failure? Nothing to do with the triple dose of digoxin you were putting in his coffee every morning? The room went silent. Even Tiffany stopped posing. Will stood slowly. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? Old man took his pills like clockwork, double dose in his coffee this morning. Your words. Will. Email to Veronica. Dated 3 days before Dad died. Vincent the notary started edging toward the door. You killed him. Will. Slowly. Carefully. Deliberately. Just like Veronica killed her 3 previous husbands. Veronica's mask slipped. You can't prove anything. Actually, I can. The pills tested positive. The real Will is with Dad's actual lawyer. And that notary who witnessed your fake will. He was in Miami that week. Will lunged across the desk. This time I was ready. I sidestepped. And he crashed into the filing cabinet. You little. Willie Bear. Tiffany shrieked. I thought you inherited everything. You said we were rich. We are rich, baby. She's lying. No, Will. You're a thief and a murderer. And you're about to be arrested. The door opened. Detective Riley walked in with 6 federal agents. Enough firepower to stop a small army. William Henderson. Veronica Henderson. You're under arrest for murder, embezzlement, wire fraud, and about 15 other charges we'll discuss downtown. Will ran. He made it 3 feet before an agent tackled him into Dad's prized potted ficus. Dirt exploded. Tiffany screamed. Vincent tried to climb out the window and got stuck halfway. This is entrapment, Will shouted, spitting potting soil. No, Riley cuffed him. She just let you tell the truth for once in your life. Veronica lunged for her phone to delete messages. Margie, 73 years old, supposedly harmless, whacked it out of her hand with her purse. That's assault. Honey, I'm old and confused. Margie smiled sweetly. I thought it was a weapon. Tiffany was melting down. You told me you were rich. You said we were going to Paris. I quit my job at the salon. My mother was right about you. She started hitting him with her designer bag, bought with stolen money. The agents let her go for a minute before pulling her back. As they dragged Will out, He made one last desperate attempt. She attacked me first at the doctor's office. I was defending myself. Riley pulled out her phone, showed him the security footage. You mean this video? The one where you hit a woman recovering from surgery? That attack? Will's face went from purple to white. Vincent, still stuck in the window, started crying. Employees gathered outside Dad's office. When they saw Will in cuffs, some wept, tears of relief. Margaret from accounting applauded. Is it true? Asked Tom. Dad's foreman for 20 years. Did he really kill Mr. Underwood? I nodded. Tom had to be restrained from going after Will. That man gave me a chance when no one else would. He paid for my daughter's cancer treatment. Story after story emerge. College tuitions paid, medical bills covered, second chances given, and Will had been planning to destroy it all for a quick $3 million. The trial was a circus. Will burned through 3 lawyers, each quitting when they saw the evidence. The financial crimes alone would have put him away for 20 years, but the murder charge, that was different. The prosecutor laid it out coldly. Will had been stealing for 5 years. When Dad got suspicious, he needed a permanent solution. Enter Veronica. Who'd done this before? The defendant, the prosecutor announced, has a very interesting history with husbands and heart conditions. He pulled up a chart. Husband 1, heart attack, $500,000. Husband 2, kidney failure, $1. $2 million. Husband 3, stroke, $2 million. Victim 4, Douglas Underwood, net worth $10 million. Cause of death, digitalis poisoning over 6 months. The courtroom gasped. Tiffany testified in an outfit more suited for a nightclub. Will said his stepfather was dying anyway. He said they were just helping him along so he wouldn't suffer. He said it was merciful. She examined her nails. Was I supposed to ask questions? My last boyfriend said I asked too many. Will's face during her testimony was something to behold. Then they found Veronica's storage unit, trophies from each dead husband, wedding rings, watches, and medical records annotated in her handwriting. Increase Tuesday dose, switch Thursday pills, final increase next week. She'd planned my father's death down to the day. Gary took the stand with Dad's real will and his letter. The judge had to call a recess when he read the part about Dad knowing he was being poisoned but enduring it to gather enough evidence to protect me. He died a hero, Gary said, his voice breaking. He died getting justice for his daughter. The foreman testified about the pension fund. Mr. Underwood promised us that money. Some of us worked there 30 years. Will Henderson was stealing our futures. 3 other families came forward. They'd suspected Veronica in their loved ones' deaths but never had proof. A pattern emerged. Wealthy widowers with health conditions, married quickly, dead within 3 years, always natural causes, always leaving everything to her. She's a black widow. One son testified. She killed my father. Now I know I was right. Will's gambling debts came out, almost $1 million owed to dangerous people. That's why he needed to sell the company fast. Text messages from Big Eddie promised to break his kneecaps if he didn't pay. The jury deliberated 43 minutes. Guilty on all counts. Will got 25 years for the federal charges, plus life for murder. When they read the verdict, he fainted, carried out on a stretcher. Tiffany stood up in the gallery. I'm writing a book. I dated a killer. Somebody call Netflix. Veronica got 30 to life for multiple murders. When they sentenced her, she didn't flinch, just smiled that cold smile. I'll appeal. She won't win. Vincent got 5 years and immediately offered to testify about every other crime Will had involved him in. Another 10 years added to Will's sentence. But justice wasn't just punishment, it was restoration. The company was saved. Without Will's theft, it was worth $15 million. The employees got their pension fund restored with interest. Margaret from accounting cried at her desk for an hour when she learned she could retire next year. Dad had left me a letter with Gary, to be opened only after the trial. Inside was a key and an address. Your father set this up years ago, Gary explained. He knew Will was troubled, knew Veronica was dangerous. This was his insurance. The address led to another safety deposit box. Inside, $2 million in bonds and a note. For my grandchildren. I may not live to meet them, but I wanted them to know their grandfather loved them. Tell them they come from strong people. I cried for an hour in that bank vault. Riley got a commendation and used the publicity to create a task force focused on elder abuse and inheritance fraud. The Underwood case became required reading at the police academy. Margie got an award from the forensic accounting community. She accepted it wearing a t-shirt that said, "Old ladies know everything," and got a standing ovation. Best part? Will's prison had a reputation. They didn't like men who hurt women or the elderly. His fellow inmates made sure he understood their displeasure daily. He wrote me 6 months in, begging forgiveness, blaming Veronica. I sent it back unopened with a note, returned to sender. No such person at this address. 6 months after the trial, Underwood construction was thriving. I'd learned Dad's business from the ground up. Turns out I had his instinct. We landed the contract to build the new children's hospital, something Dad had dreamed about for years. The morning we broke ground, I stood where he would have stood, wearing his old hard hat. Tom squeezed my shoulder. He'd be so proud. Donna. I'd found love in the most unexpected place. Dr. Nathan Brooks had been my emergency physician the night of the miscarriage. He'd testified at trial about my injuries. Afterward, he checked on me, made sure I was healing. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into something more. He was nothing like Will. Gentle where Will was violent. Honest where Will was deceptive. When I told him I was scared to try for another baby after everything, he held me. "Whenever you're ready, or never. If that's what you need, I'm here for you, not for what you can give me." We married at the courthouse with Margie and Gary as witnesses. Simple, honest, real. The day I found out I was pregnant again, I drove to Dad's grave. It was his birthday. I brought his favorite beer and a slice of the lemon cake he loved. "We did it, Dad." I touched the headstone. "We got them. The company's safe. The employees are taken care of. Will's never getting out. Veronica either." The wind rustled through the trees. For just a moment, I could swear I smelled his cologne. "I'm having a baby, Dad. Nathan's a good man. You would have liked him. He actually reads contracts before signing them." I laughed through my tears. "And Margie's teaching me forensic accounting. She says I'm a natural. Must have gotten that from you, too." I stood to leave, then turned back one more time. "They thought I was weak, Dad. Thought because I was grieving, because I was hurt, that I'd just roll over and let them win." I touched my still flat stomach. New life growing, hope living. They were wrong.